What can we say about David Lynch, mad genius? Here's what I think is one of his top tier movies. It's Lost Highway, a very strange, disturbing horror noir, packed with schizophrenic logic. Even a woman who is a blonde woman named Alice, probably a vague allusion to Alice in Wonderland. I don't think this movie can be figured out. It's patently dream logic, a psychosexual landscape. It's about the desires and the wishes of people rather than some kind of real world event or experience. And therefore this movie is ultimately mysterious, beginning with a lot of images in this movie, and also the structure of the movie, the beginning and the ending, which has this interlocking Mobius structure-like thing where a man comes up to a door and says, Dick Laurent is dead. And at the end of the movie, well, you'll just have to watch it to see. I'm not going to spoil it just yet. I think we do need to spoil the movie somewhat. This is not quite a spoiler, but I need to talk about the structure of the movie, so let's go. The first 15 minutes focus on Fred Madison in a sort of Hollywoodish California home, and most of this 15 minutes takes place in a home. He's boxed in, jailed in almost. A lot of the shots say that. He has a wife, Renee Madison. He plays saxophone at a jazz club, but the whole aura of this opening is that there is paranoia, surveillance paranoia, Fred Madison's worried about his lover, Renee, cheating on him. The opening focuses on this man's warped desires, psychological landscape, you could say psychosexual problems. 50 minutes into the movie, we see him in jail. He's committed a crime, killing his wife. But then something bizarre happens. We see him transform, or the movie at least lapses into, a much younger man. The man is Pete Dayton. He's a car mechanic, and he is working for a mobster played by Robert Loggia. And it just so happens that Robert Loggia has a belle, a dame, a girlfriend who looks pretty much exactly like Renee Madison. They just have different haircuts. So we spend another hour in this movie with the Pete Dayton character who's looking James Deanish. And then the last part of the movie, guess what? Pete Dayton warps back into Fred Madison. There's some kind of overlap between these characters, and it's up to the viewer to figure out, if they can't even figure out, some of the mystery as to why these two characters are connected, or maybe they're the same person. So pretty immediately within the first hour, Lost Highway confronts ordinary viewers, every viewer, with some basic questions which we need to ask aloud and ponder the mysteries of. First question, who is Dick Laurent, and why in the middle of the movie is he alive when at the beginning of the movie the main character is told that he is dead? Another question, which occurs 15 minutes into the movie, are Fred and Pete the same person? How did that happen? Is this body transfer? Are we to see them as two different characters? Is it the same person? A similar question comes up with Patricia Arquette's characters. Are they the same or are they different? And then of course there's this weird question, who the heck is the Robert Blake character? What is he? What kind of entity, being, allegorical figure, you name it? What is this character doing in the movie? So Lynch leaves us with a bunch of mysteries, I think almost all of which are unsolvable, or you can at least try to articulate a response to these questions. But at the end of the day, to me, these are mysterious and they're ambiguous and there are lots of possibilities for them. Already, all of this is way too weird to even talk about or figure out, but let's try to make some observations and associations with this movie. One of those is, and David Lynch has revealed this himself, he's inspired by the O.J. Simpson murder case, which was a very big deal. You had to be there to understand it. I saw O.J. Simpson go down the highway as the police were chasing him, that very famous Ford Bronco chase. But then the O.J. Simpson trial itself was a massive deal, so massive that I even got out of school. Yes, they let us out of school, I think it's 8th or 10th grade for me, to go see the trial verdict as it was displayed on live TV. America's obsession with the O.J. Simpson trial, therefore, is maybe at the tangential heart of this movie. There's lots of love triangle stuff. There's a powerful man and then the jealous lover. And I think this movie as a description, that's how I take this movie, as a description of America's obsession with a sexual, violent case. And then a long continued obsession with such cases, as a lot of great movie makers, including Terrence Malick, have explored the sort of territory of the rebel figures who are into crime or sexing crime and violence. And so this movie, through Fred Madison, if we want to focus on him as the main character, explores that side of things, that deep, dark, perverse desire to want to know about these things, But there's also surveillance paranoia at the heart of this movie, which I think is prescient on Lynch's part as we've become more and more a surveillance society, and people have gotten worried more and more about this. You know, this movie is 4 years before 9/11, the war on terror, more of a police state, as we would say in America. The rise of the NSA and the CIA and government spying on all citizens through any means necessary, and being videotaped and having sort of a reality TV experience. There is a character in this movie, and you all know this if you've seen it, the Robert Blake character, who's this wide-eyed, pale-faced, what the heck is he? He looks like a ghost, a spirit, a vampire. Later in the movie, he shows up in many weird situations. He seems to be able to videotape Fred Madison in his home. How can he do this? But I take this character to be somewhat like a Jiminy Cricket, warped Jiminy Cricket conscience-like character. Not that a conscience is pure good and holy all the time. In fact, a conscience can be formed and shaped and twisted out of warped moral norms. And that's what this guy could be. Once the movie segs into the Pete Dayton storyline, we're asking, okay, what does he have to do with Fred Madison? Fred Madison becomes younger. But the overlaps between the Fred Madison and Pete Dayton include the Robert Blake character showing up, who he may actually be. This is so weird. The Patricia Arquette blonde woman, maybe, maybe not, leading him on to do some certain kind of crimes. And I take this middle section to be a Taxi Driver-like discovery of moral, sexual purity, injustice sorts of things, in which the Pete Dayton character, maybe also the Fred Madison character, it has to get vigilante justice or is upset at what's going on with the Renee Madison / Patricia Arquette characters. And you have this sort of upsetness. And this is common at the time. There's a number of movies about this more warped moral justice thing where a vigilante has to get back at people who are perverting all of society, perverting good women, or something like that. Thus, the associations to me are, okay, the O.J. Simpson trial, okay, America as a pure state versus a darkly, deeply, sexually perverse, and criminally, violently perverse place, the twisted nature of a surveillance society, combined with classic noir. I think this movie is a neo-noir, but it's warped, and I find this to be an excellent commentary on all the noir tradition, as a sort of repackaging of it in terms of Lynch's own weird and mysterious schizophrenic logic, Alice in Wonderland-like schizophrenic logic. Matter of fact, to me, this movie watches much better knowing a lot of noir. I think I saw this movie or parts of this movie back when it came out, and I didn't know enough then. I was 17, 18, 19 years old, but now seeing so much 40s, 50s, 60s noir, now looking at this movie, it's definitely commenting on all that and bringing it into the O.J. Simpson case in the 1990s aesthetic. One, like Cinemax softcore pornography, USA cheesy romance movies, but also then the sort of violent, dark stuff that a lot of directors have been attracted to. I think Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers is in this movie somewhat, along with vigilante movies. And as I'm trying to argue then, this is David Lynch bringing together about 50 different things in American culture, society, and literature and art, and then, filtering it through his own warped process or mind. As such, the movie has a lot of wonderful shots and paintings. I find this to be Caravaggio-like, who's a very disturbing painter in a number of ways. There's a lot of chiaroscuro in this movie. Very dark backgrounds. You can see characters' faces. A lot of extreme close shots with chiaroscuro. And then maybe highlighting a person against the darkness, either the darkness within the person or the darkness surrounding the person, which is the world of this movie, the sort of psychosexual surveillance society. And maybe if we want to take the O.J. Simpson case and bring it in here, American culture at large and its obsessions with the topics that show up in this movie. Now, a bit of spoilers here, I won't say too much about it, but the ending of the movie strikes me as extremely complicated, and one could watch it, I find, as the taxi driver-like character gets what he wants, but then is chased by the law and is turned into an American rebel figure. I can look at this movie perhaps moralistically and say he got what he wanted, which is to take out the bad people in society. And the Robert Blake character is a Jiminy Cricket character, as I said, a moral conscience driving this man. The police are always chasing him, but he's really getting the justice. And this is sort of an anarcho-tyrannical society in which terrible mobsters get to rule the place until Fred Madison gets a conscience, gets out of jail. Oh, this is oh, okay. This reading is crazy, I know, but any reading of this movie is crazy. You could see, though, that Fred Madison is a good guy at the end and becomes an American rebel figure. Now, I realize I'm at a point in this video where we're just dealing with straight up a weird movie, mysterious movie, where its associations and impressions create an atmosphere that is fascinating. And to me, this is a horror noir that is awful and awful, AWEFUL, and awful, AWFUL. And I think that's David Lynch's general commentary on America, or a lot of parts of America circa the 1990s. That's the way I watch this movie. Of course, this is the beginning of his so-called Hollywood trilogy, which I think all of them have the schizophrenic logic. Main characters who could be dreaming up everything, and their warped desires, their perversions, are externalized into their visions. I think that you could just probably basically or reductively read this movie in terms of Fred Madison's very warped desires placed externally on everything we see in the movie. I started at this video, I thought, oh, I can explain this. It's so easy. No, it's not. So you try to make a video like this. What do you think of Lost Highway? Let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thanks and have a great day. This video is dedicated to Discord user, YouTube channel subscriber Miguel. Thank you very much for your support.